Hello.
Hello.
And welcome to Politically Incorrect.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about stuff and get a lot of people pissed off. All right. First thing is Brazil. Someone wanted to explain what Brazil. Oh yeah, by the way, we have Joe,
Hello.
Nate,
Hello.
and myself, Zach. Brazil.
Yeah,
Take it
Brazil.
away, Nate.
So, as some of you probably know, is that they've been having a series of riots in Brazil that have gotten massive, actually, with thousands and thousands of people pouring into the street. But so it all started not for anything big in particular, but there were just these bus fare protests because they raised the price by 3 reals to 320 reals, which is 10 cents or 6 pence for other British viewers. And then it's but of course there's other problems that have been leading up to this, like corruption. They're hosting the 2014 World Cup, and that's just and they're building all of these new stadiums and people.
They've already got poverty and horrible living conditions for the poor.
Yeah, but actually, which is a bit surprising, is that their middle class is growing and their economy is growing. It's one of the better growing economies in today's, and so it's actually there's less impoverished people than say surrounding countries in like Argentina, Chile, or whatever.
I feel like the riots are really coming to view because they're being displayed as such a great nation, and all this money is being dipped into the World Cup and the Confederations Cup, which was going on when
Yeah, like the preamble, basically, to the World Cup.
And they're starting to realize with this bus tax that maybe life's not as great as they're showing it, and that they actually want money for schools and hospitals instead of soccer.
Yeah, but unlike most other countries, Brazil actually listens to its people. For example, they just passed this corruption bill, which punishes corruption as a heinous crime that you can serve 2 to 12 years in prison, which obviously isn't that much. But so people or whole lobbies, in fact, could be punished for bribing government officials, and it also applies to bureaucrats and politicians who demand favors from their constituents or whoever, and embezzle money from the government. So instead of just sort of like protecting their people, they are actually helping things. And there's a bunch of new oil fields that have been found in Brazil, and all of the royalties, so when you just take out like what you're paying in to get the oil out of the ground, all of that money is going to go to health and education. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember the president, I read that article, and the president said that she was going to answer with some more reforms, but it also said that there was an election year, I believe, next year, in 2014.
I think that's how it's going to go.
So that makes me skeptical, because it makes me think that she's just saying that so that she gets reelected. You know what I mean?
I definitely agree with you, because I wasn't happy with how they originally dealt with the protests. Police came out and fired rubber bullets.
Brutal police crackdown on it.
Plus the long history of Latin America. But I just don't believe that they're going to follow through with what they're saying.
I mean, they definitely could, but, I mean, it makes me skeptical that there's an election year next year, and she's saying that there's going to be reforms.
So it's definitely possible that they are having this World Cup to gross more money to do stuff like raise money for schools and hospitals.
Yeah, because whenever you host an event, the idea is you bring in tourists and you're making jobs through that.
But you have to spend money to make money, and they're spending a lot more than they can, like...
Yeah, it will be...
It's a risk.
Well, it's just because because they've had so many innovations in the past that they want to keep it going, and that this is just taking so much of their budget, which obviously isn't that big.
Yeah.
Even though they have so many people, it's just sort of draining resources from places where people think it could be more important.
So, in the end, Brazil, thumbs up, thumbs down?
That's a tough one, because they also mentioned that during the riots that quote-unquote anarchists were causing problems for the police.
Well, there was some anarchists.
Yes, but I call bullshit on that, because whenever I hear that, it makes me think that the state simply just wants anarchists to be portrayed as bad again.
Yeah, well, but they said they found petrol bombs, gasoline, explosives, knives, and drugs, but it is Latin America, so it's like...
that's...
it's Brazil, folks.
You go hand in hand, Latin America drugs. Alright, so I guess, should we move on? Yeah, let's move on. Do we want to go with Syria next?
Sure.
Another big one.
Yeah,
in
that's
the news. All right. So
Always
Syria,
in the news.
back in I think it was March of 2011, a number of protests corresponding with Arab Spring started, and it basically came about as a result of this emergency rule that has been going on since I think the 80s or the 70s. That the president basically had complete control over the country.
Yeah, he's had Bashar al-Assad has
Yeah.
been in power since 1971.
Yeah, and they've just had a very, very bad record of human rights, and it escalated into armed conflict. When was that?
Around
11 or
March 2011.
2011. All right, and yeah, it's been crazy there. Obviously, it's good to see a dictator being fought against, but the numbers that are coming out of Syria of people dead and injured are just staggering.
Mhm.
I've got right here, it says the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reports that 100,191 people have died up to June 24th of 2013. 36,661 civilians have been killed. 18,072 rebels. 25,407 government soldiers. Just over 17,000 pro-Assad, like, for the government fighters. 169 Hezbollah, which are fighting for the government as well. And
Yeah, those are extremists.
2,571
In quotes.
unidentified. They don't know who they
Who
supported
stayed.
or what they exactly.
And another large logistical part of this problem is that you're just getting so many refugees pouring into
Yeah.
surrounding countries like Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, and all of these Palestinian territory and all of that. Like, they don't just go away. That's going to put a heavy strain. Like, the population is rising considerably in some of these countries that can't really deal with such large portions of people just flooding into the country.
I remember a story, I think it was last year, on, I believe it was actually June 22nd, that it was a Turkish fighter plane got shot down
Yeah,
over quote-unquote Syrian airspace.
yeah.
But there was this whole big deal about it, and it looked very bad for Syria at the time.
Yeah, well, because it's on June 22nd, a Turkish F-4 fighter jet was shot down by Syrian government forces
Yeah,
because
that was the big
Yeah.
deal.
and that is, because one, Turkey is the Western world's greatest ally
pro-American, yeah.
in the Middle East, and so that sort of just shows that they were doing reconnaissance or some such thing in the area, and they obviously met with resistance.
Yeah, they claimed it was a training mission, but
Yeah,
that was,
that does sound sketchy because
Yeah.
the close ties between America and Turkey.
Oh yeah, and I think it was like last month or somewhere. It was recent. A Scud missile actually landed in Iraq from the. They don't know who fired it, but it was someone from
It was
Syria.
like-
It was from Syria.
I remember something happening in Lebanon.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody, because Hezbollah has a decent hold over the population
Oh,
in
yeah,
Lebanon,
yeah.
and so there were, I believe, the Israelis fired missiles in the area and to destroy Hezbollah weapons because Hezbollah doesn't like the Jews very much either. Yeah,
I feel like this is a tough subject to talk about because there's not really anyone totally in the right. Because there's
That's
been
true.
atrocities on both sides, all sides really. And you just,
Yeah. Apparently, well, supposedly, either side may or may not have used chemical weapons, which obviously is a big no-no.
Geneva.
Yeah, Geneva Convention, big problem there.
yeah. And this is what I've been reading is that it's sarin gas. But
Yeah.
you sort of have to think about it like, where would rebel fighters get sarin
Yeah,
gas?
but the thing is, they actually confiscated, I think it was 2 kilos of, it was either sarin gas or mustard gas from rebel forces I think, going into Syria from Turkey.
Mm.
Or something like that. They might have been going from Syria to Turkey, I don't remember.
Yeah. And it's just sort of...
Are they breaking Turkey's neutrality by entering their borders?
Well, no, because one, Middle Eastern borders are not really as structured as you'd think they would be,
Yeah.
like European
Because
countries,
half
per
of it
se.
is desert.
Yeah,
You can't
so
necessarily
there's really...
control an entire desert.
Yeah, and
Like,
it's
oh,
not like...
Look over that dune there and see if you see anything.
Yeah. And it's just sort of these massive expanses of land that you don't really have need to control, and forces like Hezbollah frequently cross borders back and forth into
Exactly.
countries. They have stations in Lebanon and Turkey, and
Well, needless to say, there's a lot of issues that needs to be sorted out.
Yeah, obviously. Oh yeah, and Hezbollah. I thought this was interesting. Hezbollah is actually classified as a terrorist organization by the U.S.
Yeah.
And they're fighting on the side of the Syrian government. So I think that says a lot about the government.
oh yeah, they're not good people. If you're ruling for 40 plus years, something's wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That's not right.
You don't really get that. No, you don't hold on to that sort of power for that long.
Just-
Well, his
yeah.
family, it's a legacy. You don't really get elected. His family's been in power
Yeah,
since
exactly.
1971. So it's
Absurd.
Yeah.
No. Shush over there.
Our man behind the camera, Matt.
Yeah.
Fucking camera.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, there's not a camera, but
You know.
anywho.
All right, next subject.
What do we want to do? We got, I think, 3 more big ones that we want to talk about.
I saw Maine was on the list.
Oh, the main
drugs. And that's weird because I could have sworn.
Canada.
So Maine supposedly passed this thing that allowed its citizens to import drugs from Canada, which are obviously a lot cheaper just because of the health, universal health coverage
better
and that sort of stuff.
Healthcare than,
Than the
States.
US. But I could have sworn you were able to do that before, but apparently not.
Well, they say, I think the big difference is now they're allowing prescription drugs to be
Oh,
imported
so you
from
were just
Canada.
able to get
You
like,
can basically get a prescription and then fill it
Yeah.
out or get it imported from Canada because it's cheaper
Mm.
instead of the just like I don't know, normal drugs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I remember I was in Montreal with my mum a few weeks ago, and it was she was going to get some like anti-wrinkle cream because it's like $30 cheaper in Canada than it is in the States
$30.
or something
$30
like that.
cheaper?
It's because that stuff is
I'd
outrageously
even-
expensive.
I didn't even think
Yeah.
it was $30. Sorry, old people.
They're saying that there's more of a threat for counterfeit, quote unquote counterfeit drugs.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But you have to think about it. Well, yeah, the Canadian border is not that strong. I literally drove across it, and this was back when during the Boston bombings, I crossed the thing, and we had to say, "Oh, we're coming from outside of Boston," and then they go, "Oh, were you at the things?" And then it sounded that was literally it, and you just sort of pass through the border. They don't search anything. It's probably 70% less tight than an airport. It's just like you sort of just say, yeah, and then you cross the thing.
What like the longest border on?
Yeah, it's the longest because
Yeah.
of the, what is it, Rush-Bagot Treaty?
one of those.
One of those way back then.
Yeah.
Or the Clayton-Bulworth, one of those.
Yeah, it's just. I don't see a problem with that, honestly.
No, it makes sense because from a more conservative point of view, you can say that it's the free market at its best. You get the cheaper drugs and they beat out the more expensive ones. It makes sense.
Capitalism's all based on people trying to find sneak around
Yeah,
corners
Yeah,
to find the cheapest one.
essentially,
Yeah,
which
capitalism
can have
at its
bad
best.
consequences and good consequences. So,
Have a problem with it? Suck it. Merca.
It's the law.
All right. Moving on to affirmative action.
I suppose so.
All right.
This is a very interesting story because it kind of confusing in some parts.
Well, I feel like it's really important to know what affirmative action is, and
Yeah.
for anyone who's listening who doesn't know,
yeah, okay, explain it.
affirmative action is the favoring of more minorities, in the sense of like race and gender. which obviously isn't a bad thing. But sometimes it goes to the extent where
And it's mostly in the case of like university applications, right?
universities and jobs,
Universities
So-
accepting
it's just to get diversity.
accepting different races to get more diversity. So it looks
But sometimes the argument is it's going to the extent where they're choosing minorities over more qualified people just for their
that's
race
where
and
the
gender.
problem.
And that's where collisions of arguments are going over. And a couple of states have outlawed it. What was it? California, Washington, Michigan, Nebraska, Arizona, a
New
bunch
Hampshire
of places.
was one of them.
They've all sort of have some sort of ban on affirmative action. But I've been following this because caring about getting into college.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't want to be, shut out because
because
my
of my
race.
race, yeah.
And I just feel like after all this history about civil rights, why is race still an issue?
Well, because the main idea of it is to just sort of make it up to everybody who's been disenfranchised for the greater part of 2,000 years when you think about it, because you just have a long period of European male dominance with very little attention paid to minorities and women. So it sort of makes sense to balance it. Of course, you want to eventually get to an area where everybody's getting paid the same, regardless of gender, race, sexuality, or whatever. And just, I've lost my train of thought, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I mean they are trying to make it up to them, but in doing so, they are making it less equal. Basically,
Yeah,
they're taking away equality, sort of. But they are.
but because men still get paid more than women, and if you look at
that's undeniable.
if you look at I believe it was Freakonomics, which it showed the discrepancy they had. They gave one person a distinctly like white name, like Blaine or whatever, or Blake or something, and then they gave person like an African American ish name like Tyrone or
Chandela.
or Chandela, and it was
Shaniqua.
and so they found that in most cases the person who received the callback for the job was the stereotypical white name, and that the people and that black people with more African American type names got left out of the loop in more cases.
I'm surprised because I've seen the exact opposite happen in other studies where they're chosen just because of their race and heritage, even if they're not as qualified.
But is that the university level, or is that something else?
That is somewhat of what I believe this University of Texas versus don't remember who.
Yeah.
Got an interesting ringtone there.
It's just a little ABBA for you people. We
But
have
you're
no
also
rights.
you're also talking about the University of Texas.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah,
Texas.
Texas. This is true.
Texas is one of the more
Yeah, you think they should
racist states.
they should try
So-
to favour.
Obviously, they're going
minority.
to favor. They're going to try to overcompensate, I guess.
Yeah, it might, just like the because another thing that's kind of related to this is the civil rights acts that have recently been overturned. So it's sort of like because certain states with racist past, like I know Alaska, Texas, all of the deep south sort of things, they couldn't pass voting laws without the Justice Department, I believe, saying it was okay. So they couldn't disenfranchise people. And so once that got overturned and they were allowed to do it without state things, there's just been a big movement towards sort of making voting, putting more voting restrictions in place, where it obviously doesn't say that Mexicans and African Americans get less votes, but it's more in less obvious terms it goes on about that. So it's sort of like so you think that there should be some sort of compensation for such behavior?
I guess. Honestly, though, I think affirmative action should be like. I honestly don't think race should be a part of it, simply because if someone is more qualified, smarter, gets better grades, whatever, works harder, and they get denied because of race, that's a problem.
Yeah, but you also have to look at it that those people are coming from a lot worse, like minorities
that's
are in a
also
lot worse
true.
school
That's also
systems.
true, yeah.
So they're not given the benefit of the doubt in the thing, and they
Yeah.
actually. I remember.
I get that a lot, yeah.
I think it was going back to Freakonomics, how they're stating that. No, it wasn't. Sorry, it was I think a Stanford University lecture I was listening to. That if you ask people their race before they take a test, people of minorities will do worse in the test because
Yeah.
they're just like, oh, I'm representing my old race. I can't like it's just this subliminal thing that you're not even thinking about, and you do worse. But if they ask you after, there is a little less of a curve between the minorities, but it's still present that that minorities usually test worse than
Yeah, and that
white
goes
people,
back to the...
and because they're not given the same
Yeah, they're
chances
not-
in
definitely,
education.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. I believe the actual disparity.
Diversity?
Disparity.
Disparity,
Dis-
there you go.
I don't even know what I'm saying. But whites and blacks, the difference between SAT scores is like 200 points.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is ridiculous. And colleges still have accepted. That's like the average for college accepted blacks over whites too.
Mm.
Which I know SATs are bullshit, but.
All right,
But-
then.
Well,
Yeah,
they are.
standardized test equals bad.
Yeah, but that's for a different time.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. Another whole monster to deal with there.
Next installment.
Yeah, there you go. Stay tuned to find out.
But in the end, I just don't know. You know, is it
Yeah.
fair? Is it
Yeah,
not
it
fair?
is definitely a tough call
Because you have to make it solely a meritocratic system where you're being awarded for how good you do, regardless of social standing or whatever. That is what you should strive for. But when you have systems that are sort of that the scales are already weighed,
basically
so what
biased.
it's doing is
against
trying
the
to level out
minority.
the scales. So it's sort of
I believe there's another state, because I've done research on this,
yeah.
that minorities who are given affirmative action treatment, special treatment, are more of the higher in, I guess, nobility, you could say, or social standing, are getting this treatment. So,
So
it's
more-
not even really
Sort
affecting
of rich black
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Okay.
not just blacks, this isn't just
Well, yeah,
blacks.
but
Yeah.
sorry,
All minorities.
I'm
but-
racist. I'll come out with it.
Oh boy.
Don't get me started on the Italians.
All those Brits
Oh,
coming
boy.
over, stealing our
Yeah.
jobs.
All right, settle
No
down.
taxation without representation.
Okay.
I think they
That was
Maybe
for
you should-
1770s right there.
All right.
gonna pass some intolerable acts in
Oh,
the next
boy. Here we
season.
go. So,
Well, the actual news article at hand, it's been handed back down. The Supreme Court shot it down.
oh, exactly.
7-1.
Yeah. That's what we were getting to.
Oh, so they said it was.
Trying.
They said that affirmative action is good.
They said
They
we
s-
don't know, so we're gonna let the lower courts look at it again.
Oh, so they're
Yes.
letting. So
Yeah.
it will be
However,
like a state by state basis, essentially.
Well, it's still they basically have upheld it until the lower courts.
So
look at it.
yeah.
Yeah, but if you really
Pretty well.
read into it, it seems like this is a win for people who are against affirmative action, because the Supreme Court has talked about how much they are really getting aggravated
Mm.
with how this is going on, that race is still a problem.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. But the other one that I read said that it was for affirmative action basically because they're still letting it
Yeah.
persist. They haven't
Yeah.
That's true.
said it.
Well, is it-
They haven't made it rolling on it.
So you said that certain states banned it. So is it a state by state basis, or do like
Right,
certain
as far-
universities allow it?
Right now,
Yeah.
it's state by state. It's like
So,
a state
um,
can say, okay, yeah, we
So
allow
you
it, or
have
no, we don't.
Boston University and Boston College. They both would do it.
They-
They're in the
yes,
same.
they would
But
have
so
it,
you
yeah.
can't have it so that Boston College doesn't do it and Boston University.
I
doesn't-
guess they could, but that's up to the universities themselves.
Yeah.
But they like it when it's a more diverse
Uniform.
student body.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So obviously
that
they
makes
would
sense.
still do it.
Even if they outlaw it, people are still going to be racist and still do it, so it's not going to change anything.
So, because what I'm saying is that you should start from, okay, get everybody equal education, one, like early on, like I don't know, like Obama, he said he's going to get preschools for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said that.
Yeah. politicians say a lot of things.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, they do.
Let's not.
But it's still a good goal to strive for. I
Well,
mean,
All right,
There are a
good
lot of
question.
good goals.
Obama going to Africa, good or bad?
I think
He's
he did a
going
good
to.
job.
He's already in Africa.
He's coming back. He
Oh, yeah.
finished it.
As
Oh,
of-
yeah,
what's-
no, I
what's
knew
the date?
this.
Bad.
Why does it matter?
As of today, which is July
He vacationed.
2nd.
It's
Third?
July
Just so you
1st.
guys know,
Right.
No, that can't be right.
It's July 2nd.
No, sorry, it's
the
July
2nd.
2nd.
All right, so as of July
My
2nd,
watch
he
is
is
wrong.
indeed in Africa right now.
Not
Yeah.
saying he is vacationing,
I
but
think he's coming
Obama
back.
is the largest vacationing president there has ever been.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't waste all the tax dollars while he's
That's
at
our
it.
tax dollars at work. Vacation.
But he is coming back with, or trying to come back with some East African trading deals. So
Yeah.
it's not completely.
Yeah,
Well,
That's
and he's campaigning. I saw that some. I don't know how he reacted to it, but I remember some people who were anti like witch doctor because there's a big tribal medicine sort of like craze in the less developed parts of Africa, obviously, and these doctors just kill people
Yeah.
because of
Oh,
because they're not real doctors, and they're not they're not skilled in medicine. They're just doing like eat this
Yeah, they kill.
eat this powder and you'll be fine. And it's
Yeah.
just like,
There's still a lot of racism there too. Like they kill albino Africans.
yeah, you
Just-
can't.
Yeah, that's
Just
what the
'cause
witch
they're
doctors do.
Yeah, because
It
it
is
is
some
freaky
weird-
if you just see a random white guy.
Just pop out of there and just be like, "Hello." Wait a minute. All right, so let's move on to probably the biggest news, in my opinion, is the status of Edward Snowden.
Yes.
He is giving Obama a hell of a time.
The whole United States, really.
Yeah, as of right now, he is probably still in that Russian airport, right?
I don't believe he's left. I think he's
Yeah.
still living there,
So he is
which must be hell.
doing that.
It really is a case of where in the world is Edward Snowden.
Exactly. For people who don't know, he basically leaked a bunch of NSA documents saying that they were tracking Americans, like just basically any American. They didn't have to have a reason online, what they were doing online, who they were calling, how long they were calling them,
Yeah.
etc.
What's it called? Metadata, I think it is.
Yeah,
So sort
the,
of
the
that-
program was called Prism,
Yeah, that's the.
and that was the
Sort of
whole
close.
program just to gather information.
No, that's
from
the
people.
metadata is the type of data they're collecting, and
Oh.
Prism is the program
Yeah.
which is collecting said data. And what is it? It's the Verizon, which is a mobile phone service.
Oh, it's Verizon, Google, Apple.
Google, Apple.
I think Yahoo was there.
Just everyone. Just everyone.
Basically everyone, yeah. It was a lot of very, very big names, and it was very, very disturbing to someone who uses the internet a lot, such as myself.
And the fact
and
that he
our producer, Matt, over there.
and the fact that they bring to your attention, or he brings to your attention that the storage space they're going to increase it, and like this is going to keep going on, and it's going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
It's
unless
scary.
obviously people speak up, which we should be, because this is a blatant disregard for our Fourth Amendment, our right to privacy and whatnot. It's just, I don't even know what to say about it, honestly. It's just aggravating.
Yeah,
And no one has, I mean, everyone was joking about how they know what you're doing online before this, and then now we know for a fact.
Yeah, well, there's always been some sort of people like that with, like, what is it, the Patriot Act under Bush and stuff. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
more or less a continuation of that to
Yeah.
stop. But is it supposed to stop terrorists or dangerous individuals?
That's
Yeah.
what they say.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's still kind of freaky knowing
Yeah,
that
it's
whatever you
an
do
infringement
online
on
is
your
blocked
privacy.
somewhere.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, like that's just a blatant disregard for people's
Yeah.
privacy.
Yeah, well, because coming from, from the European perspective, which I sort of represent on this, is that we're sort of used to being watched with, like, CCTVs
Yeah.
and
That's
that sort of thing. And there's always been some, I believe that, I forget the monitoring in particular, but I know they monitor, like, emails and probably phone
there's
calls and
cameras
all that
all
sort
over
of, yeah.
London anyway, so.
Practically all over the whole country, practically. So. I love Big Brother, by the way.
well, I understand like how Europe would feel sort of
Yeah.
better with, but this is America. To be honest, this is America.
America.
This is America, and that doesn't float here really.
Yeah, but I think you should be able to There should be
Oh, obviously,
some.
yeah. You need to be able to find a way.
It's
With
just
all
it's
this-
just drawing the line between who is dangerous
Yeah,
and who
but
is.
I
And it
disagree
shouldn't-
with that completely.
I
Like,
don't-
I don't want someone watching me on the internet.
No one's
Like-
gonna watch you unless you do something bad.
Yeah, but if I'm looking up something that looks bad, then I could get in trouble.
What are you looking up, Zach?
I don't know. Let's say let's say the Anarchist Cookbook.
Oh.
That
Well,
looks very
Oh,
bad.
that is.
That is something
That is-
I know
that
you
from-
Have you ever read it?
It tells you how to make bombs.
It's fun to read because they say
Wow.
no, because they say some funny stuff about how to mess with stores in there. Like they had one where basically you go into McDonald's, right? And you say, "All right, can I have a cheeseburger without the cheese?" So basically a hamburger, but you phrase it that way. And so then you come in with a bunch of people. So then you go over to your table after you order, and you order like 6 of these, just so that it takes them.
You
forever.
ordered 6 cheeseburgers without cheese.
Yes.
It's like our friend.
Just because it takes them an annoyingly long amount of time. I mean, this was back in the whenever this was written.
I would like some chips, but I want them to be raw and sliced
Yeah, no,
accordingly.
it's exactly like I have a friend Dylan, and he makes whenever he goes to a fast food restaurant, he makes them give him a new batch of French fries,
Yeah.
like without salt or something, and then he
Oh,
just
yeah.
gets salt and put it on. But it's
That's
just
fun.
incredible. It's
Anyway,
incredible.
So you go into McDonald's with cheeseburgers with a bunch of people, and then when you go to sit down at your table, you just go, "Oh, dude, we've got the munchies so bad," and you're just really loud and obnoxious. So people will start to look at you and walk away and whatever because they're like,
Yeah.
you're rabble rousers. And it went on and said a bunch of other stuff, and I thought it was hilarious. But I'm gonna get in trouble for that just because that's on the blacklist of
Not
what.
necessarily because you're doing something bad, because
Just because I looked that
Yeah,
up
you
because
can-
it was entertaining.
Like it from, I know how to make gunpowder. I know how to blow some stuff up, but it's not like
you need something done, call me.
yeah, exactly. It's just like, but what's
He's
the?
your guy.
I wouldn't. I don't. One, I like my eardrums where they are, and 2, I like my skin. My dermal tissue is quite friendly, and I just like all my bits where they are, and I don't need them in other places.
All right.
Well, I honestly don't like this idea of them watching us.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's up to the government to decide where that line to draw is. I think it's up to the people.
Exactly. Consent of the government.
That's what Snowden's pretty much saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to what
Well,
he
then
said
it should
today.
it should have been an open program because it's not like
That's true. Yeah.
you should have just said, okay, we're gonna just watch who you're calling, how long you're calling them, and that sort of thing. And then it's just like,
Yeah,
oh,
they shouldn't have. If
Well,
they didn't keep it
yeah,
secret,
it-
probably wouldn't.
if
have
they-
done
No,
that.
it wouldn't. People would just been like, oh, okay, I get it. There'll be some people who would just like, oh, that's horrible, but it
Yeah,
wouldn't have
yeah.
been such a colossal.
No, but if they came out and said, okay, we're monitoring Verizon, then any terrorist, whatever, is not going to use Verizon.
Well, they probably don't use Verizon now.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but you go to Verizon and you have Apple.
They probably
More or
use
less.
Metro PCS.
Which works off the Sprint network, and Sprint was on the list, so
Ooh.
Well, never mind then.
There we go.
Prove me
so
wrong.
you're screwed pretty much.
Sprint on the list.
So back to what he said today, or yesterday, I think it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
He basically said
This might not
that
be.
he was criticizing Obama for protecting the rights of foreign peoples to
Which
seek
I thank him
asylum.
for.
What? All right. To seek asylum, and yet he's trying to prevent people from giving asylum to Snowden, to
Mm.
him. And I have a quote here because I
Oh,
prepared.
Prepared. Good job.
So he said, and I quote, "Sadly, this right, speaking of the right to seek asylum, is laid out and voted for by the U.S. in Article 14 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is now being rejected by the current government of my country." So this is in law that you have a right to seek asylum, and they
Mhm,
are not
that makes
allowing
sense.
him to do so, or at least trying to force him
Yeah.
to not, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think the real disgusting thing is that they haven't brought forth charges, yet they want to detain him.
No, they have charged
I
him.
thought
Because
it
with
was-
Julian Assange, they have absolutely nothing
Exactly,
on
'cause
him.
he's not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, which is my country's bad because that's where he is at the
Yeah.
moment.
Well, technically Ecuador, but
Well, he's in the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
Yeah.
And he's been in there for, what, 3 years? Some shit like that.
It's been a while. No, not 3 years though. He's been there a while though. It's been at least a year.
I think it's 2000, maybe 11, maybe 10, I forget.
No, because I remember there being a live stream of that when it was happening.
Yeah.
I think it was last year.
Anyways.
I don't think it was. Okay, whatever. Carry on.
Whatever. Neither of us probably know what we're talking about.
No, but I thought, well, yeah, with Snowden, I'm pretty sure they gave him, like,
They
They said
give
he's
him
a
pass to go
traitor.
From Hong Kong to. Oh.
Well, yeah,
sorry,
I
sorry,
mean, the
sorry.
charges,
I was
yeah,
thinking of
sorry.
the charges.
um,
They did say espionage, I think.
yeah, espionage, like, whatever, being a traitor
Yeah.
is classified under.
That's.
So what are Snowden's charges?
Espionage.
That's what, yeah.
Espionage.
Yeah.
Julian Assange is nothing.
Yeah, Julian Assange has no charges on him. Snowden has espionage. And
I've heard
that.
Snowden just said he leaked NSA documents
Yeah.
or
He
like a
has
PowerPoint
thousands,
presentation.
He has thousands of them. Sorry.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
because he.
Like, he's still-
What was his job? He was the like a
I
graphic
don't
designer
know.
or something.
He was
nonsense.
probably. He had something to do with the NSA, but he was very down low. But somehow we got access to these documents.
I heard he literally joined the NSA just to gain access, though.
Yeah, which is hilarious.
Well,
Honestly,
Well,
I think that's a
that's
great idea.
the only thing I see wrong with him.
Why would that be wrong, though?
Well, you have motive. Like you weren't as honest as you seem.
Yeah, but he was
Well,
exposing an even
yeah.
worse lie.
No, I'm on his side, but I just don't agree that he's an angel.
Well, he's
No one's an
probably
angel.
has done some things wrong, but this, in my opinion, is the best thing that he could have done because it finally gets people acting about this thing that we thought was going on, but we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, but he still broke the law.
Yeah, the law. But
The law.
I am the law, and the law is one.
Bill Javert.
Anyway.
Well, folks,
Is that it?
I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah? Alright, our producer is telling us.
No, he's just eating pretzel sticks.
Well, yeah, no idea what we're
So,
doing.
Yeah, we will see you guys next time on Politically Incorrect.
Or the next time.
Or
or
yeah,
the next
time.
time.
Yeah, whenever you decide to tune in again.